What's poppin', everybody? This is Saber4, bringing you guys expanded Pokemon sets. So this is going to be the new set review series that I've mentioned before that I'm going to start. We did the DP Heart Gold Soul Silver series, the 4th generation era. We did the EX 3rd generation era, the Golden Age. And now we're going to do the Black and White era, starting with the first set, Black and White. We're going to do this in order like I did with the EX era. So we're going to take the black and white sets one by one when they got released. So I meant to make this video, start this new series and make this video a while ago, but it always, something happens, with these set reviews. Just something happens. The computer broke down, shit hit the fan. But we're finally going to start, and since these sets are still expanded, they're very well still around, and we can use the cards in the expanded format. Instead of Pokemon sets from past formats, these are going to be called expanded Pokemon sets. We're going to look at all the expanded sets, starting with the black and white. Alright, so this set is a lot more revolutionary than a lot of people realize or give credit for at the time of its release, what it meant for the game, and even what it means today in many ways, if you think about it. So let's go back in time and give you guys a little history lesson before we review cards. So in my eyes, every sort of a TCG era is its own era. For example, the Wizards era is a whole different animal from the 3rd generation when the Pokemon Company took over, going to the DP era. That's a whole different era. And starting with the black and white era, it's another whole era, basically, that has shaped up the TCG how it is today. It was a complete revamp in many ways. For example, before we had Pokebodies and Pokepowers, they got merged into abilities here. When we still have abilities today, that's just how it is. Many significant erratas that are still effective today, like the Rare Candy. That was so big. Rare Candy before, you could use it to evolve a stage 2 and even a stage 1 instantly on your first turn. Or when you played that Pokemon down, it didn't matter. It was an excellent card. What made stage 2s great? Starting with this set, got that errata. You couldn't evolve into your first turn. When you played that basic Pokemon down, you had to wait. And it has no effect on stage 1 Pokemon. So you just use it for stage 2s. Another thing is the potion errata. Of course, that wasn't so significant, but something that happened. A few other cards like the Great Ball. I don't think it comes in here, the Great Ball card, but it came in the starter deck. I basically went from just get a basic Pokemon like a Nest Ball. It got the effect of Master Ball from the 3rd generation era. So on and on and on, a lot of different stuff that were completely different from how we were used to them. The biggest one, though, the biggest one, of course, or one of the biggest ones, are the rules. The rules also changed in what you could do, what it meant playing first and second. Before, it could be argued that playing second was the best thing you could do, so you could play trainers and all that stuff. Before, if you played first, you could attack, but because you couldn't play any trainers, you couldn't really get your setup going and get your digging going. Black and white changed all that shit. You could play first, you could do everything. You could attack and play all the trainers. And that was a very bad change. And it only got worse when we got even more broken cards. But yeah, we'll talk about that as we review the other sets. But yeah, another crazy thing. And I guess the craziest thing that basically still is true today. The rules did eventually change with the Legendary Treasure set, but the major change that happened in this set that's still a thing today is the Legendary Basic Pokemon. So before, Basic Pokemon, they had a limit. They wouldn't go over 100 HP, and most of them didn't even have that. It didn't matter if they were legendaries, if they were just Pokemon that didn't evolve like Kangaskhan or Tauros, or I don't know, like You guys know, like Survivors and Goose, didn't matter. Those types of Pokemon, even if they didn't evolve, they weren't gonna have like extremely crazy HP. They would have like maybe a bit more HP than normal, but that's about it. There were some exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, that's how it was. Black and White changed all that shit, and it made a new standard that is active even today. Legendary Pokemon, like that are legendaries in the games, for example, Reshiram and Zekrom in this case, the mascots from Black and White, and other legendary Pokemon like the 600 stat total ones. Legendary dogs, legendary birds, all those guys. They would have 130 HP, 120 HP, like even 110 HP. That was busted. And that's how they would be, at their inception. This Reshiram and then the Zekrom we're going to look at later. 130 HP was unheard of. This is as much as Stage 2 Pokemon had in the DP era, pretty much, you know? It's crazy, crazy good. And this Pokemon, not only did they have large HP, they had broken attacks too. Another major change with the Black and White era. Usually attacks like Outrage, Rage, Flail, these sort of attacks, they would be, yeah, strictly on basic Pokemon, but small basic Pokemon like Totodile, Slackoth, Bacon, and people that wanted to make use of those attacks, really, they would use like Memory Berry and do that kind of shit. But no, with Reshiram and Zekrom, you have this Outrage attack. It's gonna do more damage if you have damage counters on a giant HP Pokemon. 130 HP, almost nothing was gonna knock this out in one shot. So if you did like 50, 70 damage, whatever, do a decent chunk. Outrage is gonna hit you back for even more. Doing 70 for 2, 90 for 2, and even better than that. It's crazy good for back then. And then its main attack, you could say, Blue Flare, 120 for 3. It was gonna smash something in the face. Most things would die, to be honest. It would get a lot of significant knockouts, and you just have to discard too far energy. Also crazy good for a basic Pokemon. You would only see these kinds of attacks on Stage 2s before, for the most part anyway. This card was very competitive, but we'll get to that later. Even if we don't, talk about Emboar and stuff, it's already a fantastic card. You guys can see. Even today, that 130 HP standard, that's what basic Pokemon hit that are good, that don't evolve, like Buzzwole and, the other guys. So yeah, there's Reshiram, and then it's white equivalent Zekrom here. This cool guy also has the same outrage attack. They share the first attack. And then Bolt Strike, very similar, just does 120 for 3, very strong. But instead of discarding energy, you just do 40 damage to yourself. Different weakness, but same HP, same bottom stats when it comes to the retreat. They were both very broken Pokemon, revolutionary Pokemon for their time, and they really set the tone and set the standard of what it meant for cards to be strong, and if they wanted to stay in the meta and stay relevant. It was crazy. We got this Pikachu here. I don't know why. Was this a secret rare? It says 115 of 114. So maybe it's a secret rare, maybe it's like a box topper. I have no idea, to be honest. But yeah, it doesn't do much. Anyway. But yeah. So these are the two most powerful basic Pokemon. We have some crazy good trainers too that I guess I'm going to talk about. But yeah, let's talk about some Pokemon first, actually. So when this set came out, it was a complete clusterfuck because you had the DP, you had the Heart Gold Soul Silver series stuff that was like mostly compatible with DP stuff, but the DP stuff, all the variety of their effects, and thanks to cards like Sableye from Stormfront, it just made things really crazy that they had to do like an effective immediately rotation. They couldn't remove the Heart Gold Soul Silver series sets because they were too new. but they got rid of the DP sets, and it was the right thing because it was a complete clusterfuck. It was still a clusterfuck even after that. When you have these sort of new cards, new rules, they have abilities instead of poker powers and poker bodies, and then you got the heart, gold, soul, silver stuff that are sort of stuck in a different era. You got all that shit. It's kind of, it becomes a clusterfuck that only got worse as time went on. But during its time of its release, Black and White, a lot of these Pokemon here were extremely strong. So let's look at the starters. All of the starters in here were kind of solid for the time. Not all of them shined, but we'll talk about that. You got the Superior here. This is the good one. Normally you had like the rare hollow one, which was the mostly better one, and then you got like the rare one that maybe wasn't so great. Like this Superior here, 130 HP. Very good HP for back then. Water resistance, really handy. Had a very strong ability, Royal Heal. See if it's like this guy's a king or something, queen. Anyway, but the ability was strong. Any time between turns, you healed 10 damage to all of your Pokemon, not just this guy. And this ability stacked. So just having like two of this, which you didn't even need to, just one was good anyway. But if you had two Superiors out, you were just gonna heal 20 damage every turn from everybody. It's fucking broken. It's Grass Mixer Attack, or Leaf Tornado, as it's called in English. It looks shit, but it was actually very solid back then. You gotta remember, this was still the latest set, along with the Heart Gold sets. 60 for 2, and then you move as many grass energies attached to your Pokemon any way you like, so you could regulate the energies however you like. So a really flexible, versatile Pokemon with its attack and ability. Now, unfortunately, because Fire was very strong, this deck, Superior, it didn't shine all that much. You could hit Water decks for weakness, and Water was it was relevant too, so you could hit them back. But Fire was so good that, this Pokemon couldn't shine like Superior and Emboar did. And, I mean, it's kind of how it is today. We got all these great grass cards, all this great grass support, but because Reshiram and Charizard GX is so powerful, and their Fire is so prevalent, they don't get to do as much. Yeah. Okay, so very good Superior card. I like this very much. I got reprinted in Legendary Treasures and as a shiny secret rare in Dragon's Exalted, or one of the plasma sets, maybe Boundaries Cross, I don't remember. But one of those sets comes as a shiny secret rare too. Good stuff. And then we got like the rare Superior. This one isn't so bad, so this one gets Free Retreat, Water Resistance too, Leaf Storm. It's also good. You do 60 and then you heal 20 damage from each of your grass Pokemon. Not bad for back then. Vine Whip. I don't know why the fuck it's in there. I guess you could use DC with it, but it's not a great attack, the first attack. But not bad, not bad. I guess you could use them together. That's what they were. That's how they designed them. They made sure they were meant to work together, kind of thing. Same with Emboar. There he is. My boy, or girl, whatever. So, this card is just so significant to me. You guys have no idea. It's the most overused card that Saberwolf 94 has used. Because these cards are still available and expanded. They didn't, even though they rotated out from standard, because they're still in expanded, you still have a chance to use them. So if you're like me, and you use decks like Raybor and other decks, Ray Eels, stuff like that, you get to use these cards for so long. I've used this Emboar card for fucking 7 years, pretty much, almost. And, I didn't even use it from the beginning, like when the Black and White set came out. So, it's still a hell of a long time. But this card, it can be good today with that Inferno Fandango, essentially Rain Dance ability, but it was even more powerful when Black and White was the latest set. So, as often as you like, attach fire energies from your hand to any of your Pokemon. So it was better than Feraligatr Prime, which limited its use to specifically water Pokemon. This, you can attach it to any Pokemon. So you could do dragons, you can do colorless Pokemon, fire Pokemon, you name it. Whatever the hell you could do, you could attach them. So that was crazy good. 150 HP was exceptionally large for back then, even as a stage 2. I mean, you could say 150 HP is good today as a stage 2, but especially good back then. And Heat Crash, this was actually a decent attack for back then too. 80 was a considerable amount of damage, especially for a Pokemon that was supposed to be mostly a support dude, a support Pokemon. And it didn't matter that it was 4 energy because you could attach them almost for free with this guy's ability. So crazy, crazy good. Obviously, this guy was used with Reshiram that I just talked about. The deck was called Reshibor. You know, you had a powerful stage 2 like this guy powering up Reshiram. Reshiram was going to destroy things with Blue Flare and Outrage. And you could even use, like this Emboar too. Which, this card sucks today, but back then was good. Flare Blitz, 150 for 4. You discard all fire energies, but with 150 you can instantly KO things like Reshiram and Zekrom. That's a lot of damage. Get those one-hit KOs, 150 HP too. Heat Crash isn't great, but I guess it's your generic attack with no major costs. No any costs, really. You know, eventually this Emboar with Inferno Fandango would be used with Deoxys Rayquaza Legend to win, I think it was like I believe a world championship, if I'm not mistaken. But it won a very major event, and you know, this guy played a big role in that shit. Energy acceleration, always strong. So you could use this guy with Reshiram. You could use this with other Pokemon, even this Emboar. Significantly good. Also got reprinted in Legendary Treasures, the lovely Family Emboar, one of my favorite cards, period. And as a secret rare too, in I think it was one of the plasma sets. It comes as a shiny secret rare too. So yeah, good stuff. And then we got the Water Starter Samurott. This card was also good. You got the shitty one here. This one is the lesser one. I think this one was the weakest of the dudes. I mean, you can do Surf, 80 for 3. The other one has a better attack. And Pike, I guess that's not too bad for DC. 30 and then 30 to a bench Pokemon. I mean, it's alright, I guess, but I don't think it did as much as the other, I guess, shitty starters. Like, I think both the shittier Emboar and the shittier Superior are better. But anyway, the good Samurott. This card did actually see some very good competitive play and it was very good. So 140 HP is very, very nice. It was pretty damn high back then. So this guy, you know, he was big and he even had shell armor to have even more defense. Block 20 damage from this guy. So it was going to be hard to KO this dude for sure. He was going to take a few hits. And then Hydro Pump, you do 70 for 3, and it does 10 more damage for each water energy attached to this Pokemon. So if you had 3 water energies on, you would do 100 for 3, which was very, very good back then. No costs. And another thing that Black and White did, actually, before, I think most of the attacks that involved energies, like you do X damage and you do 10 more or 20 more for each fire energy or water energy you got, it was not used to pay the energy cost. With the Black and White era, it didn't matter. So it's how it is today, pretty much. You get the bonus. If you just have 3, you're still going to get the bonus. You still get that 30 damage. So, you know, that was pretty good. You could use Feraligatr Prime to try and power up this Pokemon. You know, they worked obviously together, but you didn't even have to do that. You know, this dude was compatible with DCE. So what you would do is attach like a DC and attach any other energy, since this dude is compatible with any energy. And, doing 70 for 2, or if you had like a water energy and a DC on 80 for 2, that was still pretty high damage. And the best part was you could hit things for weakness that were significant. Like you could hit Reshiram, obviously, get that one hit KO, no problem. You could hit Embor too. You weren't going to kill that guy unless you had like at least one water energy on. But you could still do that shit. And Donphan too. That was still a popular Pokemon left from the hard gold sets. And you could hit that guy too for weakness. So Samurott was pretty good. You could build it as its own deck. You could even use this guy as a tech. So yeah. So Embor probably was still the most popular Pokemon, but this guy was still really popular. And yeah, it only Superior kind of got the short end of the stick. The other starters, Samurott and Embor, at least this Samurott, did see huge play. Okay, let's move at some other stuff, other significant Pokemon. We talked about the Zekrom. And let's see, where are you? There you are. Got your Uniclus. So another Pokemon that was good because of the ability damage swap. You look at its stats, they're not great. 90 HP for stage 2, a bit ass when you look at the other guys that came in here. I mean, it was bad by DP standards, but it's because it's supposed to have a very good ability. Psy Wave, 30 damage for 3, and then 10 more for each energy attached to defending Pokemon. I mean, not the greatest attack. I guess it wasn't as bad back then. But the main thing you wanted to use this Pokemon for was damage swap. So you could soften as you like, move a damage counter from one of your Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon. So it's basically the opposite of Sinister Hand Dusknoir, if you're familiar with that broken Pokemon. So what you could do with this ability, let's say you had another Pokemon active, and you had like a Reshiram on your bench or whatever. You could move the damage counters, put them on Reshiram, attach a DC, and then use Outrage at its great potential. Another thing you could do is, of course, heal. Obvious stuff. I believe the card was called Seeker. You would use that guy, kind of like an Acerola. Move the damages around, and then move that guy in your hand. It's like a max potion. I believe it was Ross Cawthon that really made some serious use with this card. I'm not sure of all the details, but I believe he did have like a deck. Used this, maybe, I think it was with Vileplume, I'm not sure, but if you go on Jason Klaczynski, as always, WordPress page, he covers all of this historic stuff. In the black and white era, he has articles for the black and white era too, and you can check out that shit. Might be in the hard gold era too. But yeah, I'm not sure, but this card did have some significant impact for a little bit. It didn't last that long when more broken stuff came out, but was a good card in the beginning. Could have some uses. Right. Now we have, we got Timber and Girder, but no Conqueror. Kind of weird. But anyway, moving on. There's some other significant cards. So there you are. The original Zoroark card. And it was broken even back then. So, with foul play, this guy, what he can do is choose one of the defending Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. So, copying attacks. Arguably, this attack is a lot more powerful now that you can copy GX attacks and other broken ass attacks and use them for free pretty much for just a DC. But even when Black and White got released, it was still strong. Thanks to the errata of Rare Candy, the best Pokemon, which were stage 2s, kind of got severely hurt. So people thought, hey, you know what? We got all of these strong stage 1s. Let's make a deck that focuses on them. They've got cheap attacks. They've got decent HP for just being stage 1s. They can hit hard. Why not just make a deck that's basically stage ones? So what you would do is you would use a bunch of stage ones. There were a bunch of candidates, but normally you would use like at least, at maximum, like 3 lines. It would be like Donphan, it would be Zork, Yamamega Prime, Cinchino. We're gonna see that later. I think there might be a few others. I'm not sure. I think those are the major four, and you had some decent type coverage because they had different types. They would use cheap energy, just a DC. Donphan needed just one fighting, and Yamamega, could attack for free too if you had the right. Your opponent had the right cards in hand. I think the ability was you guys need to have like the same cards or some shit like that, and can attack for free. So, that was the deck, stage ones. And Zoroark was a candidate for that deck. Moving on. You got Mandibuzz too. This card, what it can do is blindside. It was decent for back then too. 50 damage snipe, as long as the Pokemon has damage counters on it. So that's pretty good. Good spread. Hit something for 50. Not bad. You gotta admit. Final resistance could be handy too against Donphan. Not bad. Lightning weakness could have been problematic against Zekrom, but blind side is definitely a good attack. So yeah, another decent card for back then. Clang. Hate this guy. One of the worst designed Pokemon. Yeah, it should have been not this guy. I hate Clang actually. It should have been just Kling and Clang. They shouldn't have made a stage 2. Just Clang. I think it would have been better that way anyway. But this guy, Shift Gear, the ability, and what it does is we've seen this before a million times. Romatisse, we got Weavile GX now that does this. There was Hydreigon pretty soon after this dude. Other abilities that were the same in the 4th gen and 3rd gen. It's the move around energies ability. For this guy's case, you move around metal energies. So eventually what would happen, there was a dude that revolutionized the sort of max potion combo, you could say. You use this Clang, use Darkrai, that would eventually be released with Dark Cloak, get that free retreat, and use rainbow energies. So you could move them around since they would count as metal, and you also had free retreat around the board since they would count as dark. And you would use Max Potion, move the energies around with this guy, use Max Potion, heal your attacker, move the energies back, and then keep attacking. You used Kyogre X from Dark Explorers 2 as an attacker, a bunch of other Pokemon. I'm not completely familiar, but it was a deck. You needed a lot of pieces to make it work, but it was definitely creative for the time, and it just basically shaped up this whole combo, the combo of move energies around, heal, and move the ship back kind of thing. And I think he won or came second at a major tournament, but I don't remember. And then the strategy got easier when Hydreigon came out in Dragon's Exalted. But anyway, Clang, it's obvious. It's going to have some uses with this sort of ability. You could do some stuff. You could use it in other metal decks with the other Plasma, Clang when that came out. You could do a lot of different shit. Moving on. Then we got, where are you? There you are, Cinchino. Or Cinchino, whatever. So this was another one of the stage 1 candidates with the Do the Wave. Just a DC. And you do 20 damage times the number of Pokemon on your bench. So if you had a full bench, this did 100 for 2. It was very, very powerful for back then. Extremely strong. Blast something in the face. Cheap energy. Cinchino, definitely good. It would die in one hit to Donphan, but if you managed to do 100 damage with this, back then it was pretty damn good. Trust me. So Cinchino, pretty simple Pokemon. Was good for the time. And now the trainers, man. Lots of significant trainers that basically made sure some decks were going to be good. Like, one of the problems that energy acceleration decks like for Alligator had, that Pokemon was in Heart Gold, and it was okay, but it wasn't top dog. But a card like Juniper that came out in the set, fixed that problem. A card like Energy Retrieval originally got released here too. It's the original +1 card. Get 2 basic energies from your discard pile to your hand. So you trade this for 2 energies +1. Great card. So you obviously would use this with Reshibor. You could use this with Feraligatr Tree if you wanted to. Obvious stuff, energy acceleration. And Juniper, man oh man. It's crazy to think about, but yeah. So this card seems pretty standard, pretty typical nowadays, especially in Expanded. Before it rotated out even, good card, you run it. Discard your hand, draw 7. But before Black and White, the closest card to this was essentially the original Professor Oak that got released in the freaking base set, the first set. And you could play as many of those as you wanted because there weren't supporters back then, they were just trainers. But even in the Black and White set here, Juniper was such a significant card, boosted the consistency and speed of every single deck. Dump your hand, draw 7. So before, like I've said, for Alligator, you had the problem, you gotta find those energies. No more with Juniper. You dump your hand, if you draw 7, more than likely, you probably see 2 or 3 energies, get the stuff you need. So this is why it helped out the energy acceleration decks a lot, helped out basically any deck, and it was just an excellent card brought back here. So yeah, just very significant. You got the potion with the errata, 30 damage, heal 30 as opposed to 20, communication, reprint, Pokedex, Pokeball. Got the plus power for 1 final time, energy switch, a bunch of reprints there. Revive, get a basic Pokemon, put it on the bench. Not a bad card for sure, back then either. And basically that's it. We covered everything, but yeah, the Black and White set, the original Black and White set, and the era that started, 5th gen era pretty much, has shaped up how the TCG is today, with all the changes in card design, in the rules, the way cards are designed in general, just so many things, man, so many things. It's the foundation of how things are today. And I'm not gonna lie, during the time this set was fresh, and basically the era of hard gold and black and white, it was a complete clusterfuck because of so many cards that weren't supposed to be in the black and white era. To be honest, like Junk Arm and other shit like maybe Vileplume, maybe, just a lot of different cards that weren't supposed to be around. It was a clusterfuck. And as time went on, more broken cards came out. People could play first, set up, and then attack too. It was fucked up. It was basically the worst era, you could say, in my eyes anyway. But, if you take out those mistakes, those rulings, those bad rule changes and stuff, the black and white, was decent. Later on, when the X's came out and everything else became completely useless, that sucked. But you guys can see there's a lot of useful cards in here, a lot of interesting cards. Maybe not as cool as other base sets, but not bad. Starters were good, a lot of different useful Pokemon. Nothing else really matters that much. I pretty much know. I guess, maybe what it does, it heals when it attacks. 40, you would heal 40, but it only had 80 HP. But yeah, it was a clusterfuck, but at the same time, very significant set with the cards it brought. And we're gonna go through the other ones too, guys. This has been the first black and white set. We're gonna do emerging powers next time. and expanded Pokemon sets. These cards are still available in our format in expanded. So most of these, due to power creep, aren't relevant, but they're still compatible technically when you think about it. That's why I say, black and white kind of shaped up how the TCG is today, with everything. But I hope you guys enjoyed this first set review of the expanded sets series. I hope you guys subscribe to the channel and leave a like and share this video with your friends. My channel is an excellent hub for all things Pokemon TCG. So hope you guys will join the channel. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you guys for watching. Saber94. What's hey?